Steven Milhausen here from DAZN, and he really doesn't need an introduction. We can just continue the interview. I really don't have to introduce him. Oh, yeah. One of the all-time greats in the world of pro wrestling. You think of tag teams, he's right at the top of the list. But these days, he is – see, I have a problem with this. I don't like this teaming, and I like Andrade. We've talked a few times that we're friendly. But the AHFO, I like the HFO better. Big Money Matt Hardy. And what's with this AHFO, man? I was a little perturbed on that last night.
Okay, that's fine and fair. And thank you for that very nice and warm introduction. But Andrade offered me $1.7 million to do a little merger. And I still get 30% of all my guys, which is just a wee fee, considering they get to have the knowledge and pick the brain of Matt Hardy, Big Money Matt, as I'm known currently in AEW. So we did this merger, and I know he's working very hard to interact with Darby. And I think the combination of Matt Hardy and Andrade is going to be very interesting, and it's going to lead to a very interesting story as time goes on.
No, my five, and we were talking before we started, and I have a 5-year-old who is starting to get into wrestling, and he watches a lot of AEW. He loves when it's on. And
yes,
we were watching, and he asked me, he's like, Dad, why does Matt get so much money? Why does he get a big percentage? And I'm like, how do you know 30 is big? He's like, well, Daddy, I can count to 100. He's like, so 30 seems big. And I'm like, why does he get so much money from these guys? What do they get? And I'm like, they get the guidance of the great Matt Hardy.
Exactly. And I almost have 30 years of experience. I've been doing this. This will be my 30th year coming up here in 2022. Oh, so wow. I have been around a minute. So, really in the big scheme of things, they are paying just a wee fee to tap into one of the greatest minds ever.
So then each year in the business, you should increase that by 1%.
I've definitely thought about that, but I think we're going to go 3%, a little more. That's my incentive to teach these guys everything. 3% every year is the growth.
You posted something on your Twitter yesterday. Happy 6-year anniversary of becoming the Impact World Champion.
Yeah. I'm very proud of that match. That match with EC3. I think he's an extremely talented guy. I like him a lot. We're friends off camera as well. But like whenever I got to do that, it was a double turn, which is known, very famously in wrestling, where the good guy becomes the bad guy and the bad guy becomes the good guy. And I think that is the most underrated double turn in pro wrestling history, that match. And it was a hell of a match. It doesn't get the credit it deserves, but like Impact wasn't on a huge platform in that day and age. But I'm very happy of how we elevated it. And when the Broken Matt Hardy stuff started and Brother Nero stuff, it became like a viral sensation. So that really put a lot of eyeballs on Impact and actually literally like saved them from going out of business because they had Anthem Sports, which ended up buying the company and they continued to run when it was literally at that point of being ready to close down.
Do you feel you get enough credit for that run?
There's a lot of people that do give me a lot of love, but also with me, it's very tough because my partner and what we're most loved for is Jeff Hardy, who is without a doubt one of the top most beloved superstars of all time. So it's hard working with him to feel like you're going to get all the credit you always deserve, but I'm okay with that. I'm very comfortable with where I am in life, with where I'm at in my career. And my brother says this all the time. He says, I may be the swanton bomb that people got so excited for, but without you, there is no poetry in motion because we work together and we're at our strongest and our best when we work together. And that was my mindset early on in this game. Whenever I'd work with Jeff, he would do all the flashy stuff and I would be the guy that would be fundamentally strong. So as long as we worked hard and the greater good was magnificent and it was working and it was a success for us, I was very happy playing that role and being slated in that role. And I'm all good with it.
The reason we are talking today, and I love the fact that we were able to connect in the extreme life of Matt Hardy. You can catch it on podcast. He available every Friday on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And, I talked to DDP last week and I asked him this question and I will ask you the same thing. What made Matt Hardy want to get into the podcast realm? You have a very good Twitch channel, but what made you decide now I want to dabble into the world of podcasting?
I feel like for me, as my in-ring careers kind of dwindle down, it is the next step in my natural progression. There are other things I want to do, other things I want to move into, and it's a way for me to reflect on my wrestling history, which I've been very fortunate to play a huge role in so many important matches and angles and stories and the creation of the TLC match through our ladder and table matches and whatnot. So for me to be able to do this podcast and tell my story and put my spin on it, I love doing this stuff and breaking things down in detail. And I just feel like it is the next step in my natural progression as far as making a living utilizing wrestling, which I love with all my heart.
What's been your favorite? Because your episode 3 is about to drop tomorrow, and it'll be
Yes.
of the 2000 Royal Rumble tables match
Right.
with the Dudleys. And when you think 20 years ago, you're like, what? Where did I go? What the hell? I think at 20 years ago, and it seemed like just yesterday, it was the 2000 Royal Rumble. Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was 22 years ago, literally, when we had this match now. So just, I say this all the time too. It seems like it has been a lifetime. It's been forever ago. But then in some aspects, it seems like it was a couple years ago because those memories are so fresh and so vivid in my mind. And I actually was on Busted Open earlier today, and I spoke with Bubba on there, and just like whenever we revisit those times, it's just such a great memory for me. And it was such a great time for us because those are the moments where we turn the corner from being pro wrestlers to wrestling superstars. The tag team ladder match, which was the first episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, and tomorrow's episode, which drops at 6 a.m., is all about the tag team tables match. And those were the two elements that were kind of combined and led to the TLC craze. And it's so cool that we were the pioneers and the groundbreakers of the tables, ladders, and chairs match. And that's a concept, a staple of pro wrestling that will live on forever. So what an honor that is, that we created something that will always be exist in this industry.
Is it hard to rank? Because you always talk, you guys are always going to be forever linked with the Dudleys. You talked about Bubba.
Yeah.
You're always going to be linked with the Dudleys. You're always going to be linked with Edge and Christian.
Yes.
But if you had to pick one, man, which team was better? Yeah, if you had to pick one.
I'll be totally honest. The three teams, we all worked well together, but we had the best chemistry with Edge and Christian. And I'm sure my brother would say that as well, because we were all very like-minded. The Dudleys were a different team who worked a different style, but they were great as heels and bad guys. And they were such an important recipe, to the masterpiece that became TLC. But when it comes down to an individual tag team, if I have to pick one or the other, it's going to be Edge and Christian, because we had the greatest chemistry with those guys, better than any other tag team we've ever worked against.
Do you miss tag team wrestling?
Yes, I love tag team wrestling, and I'm very excited that I've started this thing with Andrade. It is going to lead to an amazing story, which is going to really highlight tag team wrestling again. So it's something to be excited about on AEW programming.
I watched last night, and I thought a really, really good show last night. And
yes,
and to kick off the show, because I was thinking about you in particular when Jon came out and Jon did his interview to begin the show. And
right,
you had your own trials and tribulations a few years ago, and if you could say anything to Jon Moxley, or maybe you have already, what would it be?
The best thing I could say to anyone who has ever been through that type of scenario is just like, stick to your guns and do what's right, what feels right in your heart. And that is what will keep you on the up and up and on the straight and narrow. It really is. Like, sometimes in pro wrestling, when there's so much pain and so much difficulty and so much stress on you, it is very easy. It's a very slippery slope to fall into a vice, whatever it may be. And it is one of the greatest lessons I have ever learned. And it has made me a better person in so many ways. And like, having a family changes everything. And I know Jon has a child as well now. So my biggest thing is, like, follow your heart and do what you know is right, because that little voice inside you, that is your conscience, that keeps you on the up and up. If you listen to that, you will always do yourself right.
You said family, and that was leading into the question I was going to ask is, where would you be? Where would Matt Hardy be if it wasn't for your wife and it wasn't for your lovely children?
That's a good question. Whenever I did go through my troubled period, my wife was on my ass. So I will love her and respect her and appreciate her forever because of that. And not a lot of people would. There's some people that go, oh my God, Rebby Hardy, Rebby Sky, she's just a loudmouth. She jumps in other people's businesses and she's such a shit talker. But like, if it wasn't for her being who she was, who knows where I would be now if I am here, but I am so happy that I had her there. She was a real ride or die. And I love her to death because of that. And especially not just that, I mean, having the kids, everything else, but without her having the personality she has, my life would look very different right now. So I'm very grateful for her.
I always say this in terms of in your field and in my field, you're gone a lot, I'm gone a lot as well. And behind a good man is an even better woman. And that I couldn't emphasize more. She runs this ship just like it seems like yours runs your ship. So they make everything grand and they make it a lot easier.
They really do. And it's one of those things, man, with a relationship, there's compromise. And I think sometimes even in the pro wrestling game, if you have some sort of celebrity status, whatever it may be, if you're a pro athlete, a pro wrestler, whatever, you're on television, people recognize you when you're out and about. Sometimes it's hard to like accept that compromise, but it's one of the greatest things I've ever done is accept the compromise of marriage and a relationship, and just being able to understand that you are different from me. And sometimes you will confront me with a different issue. That is great. And everyone needs that in their life with a relationship, to remain humble, especially someone who is a celebrity of some sort, because it's very easy to grow an ego. And it's great to have a wife that will keep that ego in check.
You know, there was a big announcement earlier this week. We were talking about tag teams earlier in March the 12th. I don't know if that date rings a bell in your mind, and I imagine you know better than a lot of people, but I thought a very cool announcement. You and Jeff reuniting for the first time in 3 years as a tag team.
I am.
How exciting is that for you?
Stoked. I'm extremely excited. I mean, I feel like my life is back to being normal. Then my brother and I are going to be working together again. It's so strange when we're working in separate places, and we've done that in the past. You know, we really are at our best when we're together. He is a rock star. He really does. He is the definition of that it factor. You know, Jeff really has that. But then, like with me, I was always kind of like the business guy behind the team, or I was always the one who was steering the ship. So when we're together, we're definitely at our best. So I'm very excited that in 2022, there's going to be that Hardy Boyz reunion, and 2022 is going to be a Hardy year. I'm excited about the possibilities of where we're going to end up eventually.
You know, there was a lot of controversy regarding Jeff, and you had said he was okay. And I even talked to Drew McIntyre about this a few weeks ago, and Drew said the same thing. And Drew's like, seemed fine to me. It's like, it seems like everyone just really blew up a situation that really was never there to begin with.
Yeah, I can tell you this. The last 22 years that I have worked with my brother, you know, as a professional wrestler, the last year and a half, he has been the most responsible that I have ever seen him. And he has been on top of it, you know, because he's been through it all, but he's really got his shit together. And when all this comes out, and it's his story to share, and I will let him share it, but I think everyone is going to see, and I think WWE even knows that as well. They jumped the gun on this release. So whenever he's ready to share that story, I know he will, and people are going to be blown away by a lot of the details. But, you know, there's that old expression, everything happens for a reason. And I don't always necessarily agree with that, because sometimes people use it as an excuse. Yeah. But in some ways, this seems like it was like divine intervention. Like this happened for a reason, because the Hardy Boyz were meant to be back together. And I think it's time for the greatest tag team in all of space and time, the Hardy Boyz, who are both still active, which is incredible after all the abuse we've put our bodies through, to have one last huge run before everything is said and done.
Gave me goosebumps here on my arms and legs, Matt Hardy. I got goosebumps right now. And luckily I got a hoodie on, but even through this big White Sox hoodie, I gave me some goosebumps there. I can't wait for 2022. And, you know, I don't have siblings. And, you know, I look at my two kids and I see how much my oldest protects my youngest already at a young age. And, you know, and I look, what you say about you and Jeff, and how much does it gnaw at you when people try to drag Jeff down?
I mean, I've got to the point where I'm just used to it. You know, I understand what it is, especially like social media. It really is like sometimes a cesspool, you know, because all of the negativity on there, and there's people that really don't have anything going on, and they just want to lash out at other people who do have something going on, and they might have had a bump in the road or whatever. My motto about social media, which I said years and years and years ago, the best thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice. Yeah. The worst thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice, you know, and it is what it is. It is a great platform, a great tool for anyone who is an independent contractor as far as pro wrestling, because you can promote yourself, you can build yourself up. If someone has an industry, or it's so great how it's opened up so many podcasts or people to have the opportunity to promote themselves on that platform. But with that same thing said, there are a lot of people that come through and aren't accountable or responsible when they post stuff, which can turn it into a cesspool on occasions. But you have to just understand how to deal with that. You have to read through social media and understand that, like, all of the compliments they give you, they're not necessarily real. because it's a Twitter or a Facebook or an Instagram.
Yeah.
And all the insults they give you, they're not necessarily real as either. Yeah, as real as well. So it's one thing you just have to learn how to accept. Like, none of this is really real. It's nice to see this and hear the feedback, but you have to understand the most important feedback are the people that honestly and truly in real life that can actually interact with you. So sometimes it's a weird scenario. Some people get on there, especially when they start pro wrestling in this day and age. And it's tough because it's almost bullying. It's hard to hear that negative feedback from someone. And it always makes people second guess themselves because everyone is going to have confidence issues, whatever. So it's an interesting scenario. It's a great device, and it's also a rotten device sometimes.
I will have to say, you and your wife's Twitter games are fantastic.
Thank you.
I just love, I've learned now just to troll. Like you said, you're going to get those people out there. They're just going to insult just to insult. And I'm like, you know what? You want to insult? I'll start trolling you. But you and your wife's Twitter game, you guys take no crap. And I think that's just fantastic.
It's really, I would always dig Twitter whenever I would be a heel because I would play into the role, and it would be easy to find someone that was a very easy victim that talked some sort of bullshit, whatever. Yeah. And then I could slam them real quick. But just recently, especially with the new direction that Matt Hardy is going to be going in 2022, which I'm ultra excited about. I've just tried to be as authentic and as genuine as possible on Twitter. So the people that are trolling, looking for a cheap response or easy response, I'm leaving them out. And I don't have to worry about it because my wife will scorch the earth and destroy each and every one of them because she's a Puerto Rican who is from New York City, who has lived by New York Minute, go, go, go. So there's no dealing with her, man. When Rebby goes on a rant, she is unstoppable.
Her ether game is one to watch. I love when she just ethers people. It's always a sight to see. I will put it that way. And you talked about heels and baby faces, and what is Matt Hardy in 2022? Because one week you'll be a baby to me. I'm like, oh man, it's baby face. And then the next week, Matt Hardy's a heel. Then he's a tweener. What is Matt Hardy in January 2022?
Well, in January 2022, I am still technically a heel as Big Money Matt, the guy who is taking these young guys who grew up fans of Matt Hardy, and he's taking a wee fee cut of their money. So obviously I'm a bit of a heel, someone that is taking little shortcuts and taking advantage of people to make more money myself and build my empire bigger. But we just been in North Carolina recently, very, very good positive reactions in my backyard, obviously. And I would say within 2 months or so from now, Matt Hardy is going to end up changing characters to a degree. And I think more people are going to prefer to cheer me as opposed to boo me.
You're hard to boo anyway. You're hard to
boo,
sir.
I talk about this with Christian all the time. The AEW fan base, it is so different. The demographic is truly different from WWE. It is so much younger. Which you see those numbers and they report, whenever they do the ratings reports and whatever the demographics. But the AEW audience, it is so much trickier for guys like me and Christian. We all say this all the time. This audience prefers the young guys that are absolutely in their prime, even though they have respect for us. It's very challenging to get them 100% behind us. We want to cheer for these guys. They're almost like, hold up, these old guys, they've done their stuff for 25 years. I want to cheer for Jungle Boy or Orange Cassidy, whoever their favorite is. So that's an interesting point. And I also dig that and respect that AEW has fans that are so into their product and the new guys they're building. And Tony Khan has done an amazing job of elevating young talent. I think without question, you can't compare how many young talent Tony Khan has already built in AEW compared to AWB at this time. You have an MJF who's huge, Darby Allin who's huge now, Jungle Boy, Orange Cassidy. These guys are AEW homegrown talents, and it's very impressive. He has gotten over so many new stars.
I love your fandom of Sting because I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I'm so with you 100. He's doing it dive off the stage last night. And I'm like, yeah, and you almost overshot him. You still got it.
Sting is the best, man. And once again, as you say that, myself and my brother, we grew up being big fans of Sting. He was in the NWA, which became WCW, which was the prevalent promotion where we lived in North Carolina growing up. And Sting is why Jeff started painting his face originally. That's where that came from, Sting. Okay. And then he is just such an amazing human being, just such a good dude. And if you know him, you can't help but pull for him. So considering he went to WWE after all that time and they didn't highlight him the way they could have. And, once again, I think with Vince in his mind, he's like, well, this is a WCW guy. I can't let WCW be better than my WWE guys. That's kind of his mentality. But like, Vince, you own WCW. It's all yours now. It's fine. So whenever Sting did leave there and he came to AEW, I am just so happy he is getting to have this last run into the sunset. And he is like working. He's being utilized in the best possible positions, and he's killing it. Like, he is busting his ass for a 62-year-old man. And there's no way, being me, you can't be anything but respectful and inspired by him.
Do you tell him how big of a fan you are? Like, when you saw him when he first came to AEW, were you like, when you got to AEW, because he got there before you did, what'd you say to him? Did you mark out, or did you get like the 12-year-old Matt in you, or did you just try to keep it as cool as possible?
No, I mean, I was there before Sting, but when Sting did show up, I was so happy he was going to be there to be able to like really write the final chapter of his career and be held in the regard he should be, which I don't think he got that at WWE. Obviously he was injured. There were some other circumstances, but he deserved the absolute best. I got to work with him for a little bit in TNA the very first time I was there. So I knew him a little bit on that level. So I was just happy he was there, and I don't know if it's not really necessarily a mark out moment, but I just am a fan of him as a human. And like me, being 47, turning 48 this year, still trying to work at the highest level possible, considering all the abuse and wear and tear and how many bumps have been, punched out on my bump card. He is so inspiring, man. He motivates me to work harder and be better. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of him.
Is the bump card thing real? Because I hear a lot of wrestlers, I'll talk to a lot of talent, and they'll say that to me. And I'll talk to people outside in both companies, and they'll say the same thing. Is it real? I'm always am fascinated when guys and girls talk about the bump card.
Well, I'll hit you with a little bit of Big Money Matt too. I actually created and coined the term bump card, when it was all said and done in the beginning. So the bump card terminology has lived on and became very famous now. But yes, it's obviously real. As human beings, we're both made of flesh and bones and blood, and the human body isn't meant to be slammed into wood and steel night after night after night after night. And especially if you look back at all the insane matches myself and my brother have done with the tables matches and the ladder matches and the TLC matches and all these super extra bumps that we've taken over the years, especially my brother. Oh my God, he's a freak of nature that he's still as healthy as he is right now.
Sure is.
But just the fact that your body goes through all this punishment, and it gets beat up along with age, and nobody goes over on Father Time. The bump card is definitely a real thing, because as you keep taking bumps on your body, there is only a certain amount that your body can retain and contain. So I do everything I can as far as stretching and training, keeping all my ligaments and tendons strong. Like, I do everything that I can to keep myself up and running and to be as healthy as possible. But yes, a bump card is a real thing. It is a great analogy for like the body can only take so many professional wrestling bumps in a ring, because it's not meant to do that. We really are the most amazing combination of like athletes, sportsmen, entertainers, and stuntmen, especially when we're doing live television. So yes, the bump card's a real deal.
How crucial is AEW schedule? Because WWE, they're touring 4 nights a week, and you guys are only doing, more often than not, it's only 1 day a week. Some guys are doing, more people are doing dark and stuff like that. And how crucial is that schedule? How has it preserved your body?
It's been super beneficial to me. Doing 1 day a week and knowing that you're probably going to wrestle once a week is great. And that it definitely adds longevity to my career. And that is what I'm looking to do. And like Tony Khan was very smart with booking me, because he put me as Big Money Matt, where I could literally work with guys. And besides, being their teacher or mentor on television, I can help these new guys develop their skills and also learn behind the scenes. So that's a great role, because it can keep me out on television where I'm not necessarily taking 20 bumps a night. I can speak and I can play this role of Big Money Matt and help other guys, and he gets me on television as well. And Tony is really good at like taking older guys or veterans, established legends, and putting them with the younger talent, where the younger talent gets the rub and they get a real-time education with these veterans. Sting and Darby, Matt Hardy with Private Party, Christian Cage with Jurassic Express. You see that all throughout, and it's a brilliant strategy.
Your suit game is very good, by the way.
Thank you. I'm looking for the unique, different colors as much as possible.
you and now see Andrade's got, and I say this with respect. Andrade's suit game though, I think he can bring you up to another level. You're already at a pretty high level.
Yeah,
I think Andrade can. You guys can rise in a suit game together.
I agree. I love his suits. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Andrade and his work. And it's one of those things. I even think for me now with this transition period I'm going through into this deal with Andrade and wherever this story may go. In the past, I feel like Big Money Matt had tried to wear sometimes like outrageous colors to like be a little flamboyant or over the top. So I'm going to tighten up my game a little more to be a little bit more of a serious dresser along with Andrade.
Are you going to wear ties? Are you a tie guy?
Not a huge tie guy. And in all reality, I'm not a huge suit guy. I would usually dress up in a suit whenever it was time for me to dress up in a suit. So I can rock it if I need to. I'm a blue jeans t-shirt type guy.
Now, what about wintertime though? Is this now like the hood? Because me, it's hoodie in athletic pants. The jeans only come out and the dress pants come out when I got to travel. If I'm sitting here at home like now talking to you, I got a hoodie and I got a pair of gray sweatpants on with slippers on.
I feel you, man. I'm all about the comfort as well.
And 2 more questions, Matt. And thank you so much for the time today. It's greatly appreciated. And you're nearing the 2-year anniversary of your time in AEW. And how would you look at your 2 years so far in All Elite Wrestling?
I've enjoyed it. I'm so proud to work for Tony Khan. I love Tony Khan as a booker and a promoter, and he has done everything he can to put me in a very respectable role. So I'm very grateful for that. And like I said, in a couple months from now, let's say March, roughly, things are going to be really good for Matt Hardy, and I'm very excited about the time that time when it arrives.
You keep alluding to March. March is the month. March is a great month because it's my birthday. My birthday is the day after Revolution.
There you have it. Okay. I dig that. I dig the days after Revolution. Speaking of March, the reason I've been really on March over and over is because I had a very powerful premonition that your birthday was in March. So that's why I'm really hampering on March.
You did, and I know you're not gonna remember this, but my best friend got married. It'll be 4 years ago in February, near the end of February. And you did when you were doing the videos where people would pay for the videos and everything, and you would do
cameos.
Cameos, yeah. He showed that to me the night before his wedding. He's like, "You're not gonna believe this," and I'm like, "What?" And he showed me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it was fucking unbelievable."
Was it a Broken Matt cameo?
Yes, it sure was. Yeah. Oh my! Do you still do those?
Yeah, I do. I love doing those. They're a great gig, and people seem to get a lot of satisfaction out of them. And they're fun and easy, and I enjoy doing them. So yes, I do cameos.
Oh, and we'll end with this. And why should people listen to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, which is available on all your favorite podcasting platforms every single Friday?
Yes, Apple, Google, Spotify. It's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matt Hardy brand. Because I really feel like I'm at that point in my career where I am ready to share all of my secrets, and I am unlocking my mind, the locked room known as Matt Hardy's mind, who has all this insight and all this amazing details and like perspective from different matches and angles and stories. And I'm sharing it all with the public. So if you're a pro wrestling fan and you are into the behind the scenes stuff, this podcast is for you. And not only are we talking about nostalgia and older iconic matches and whatnot, we are also bridging the gap between the past and the present, because, episode 2 was about Hangman Adam Page, who's the current AEW world champion. And he is like on the greatest run of his career. But I knew him. I first scouted him and saw him when he was on the independent scene in North Carolina. And actually I booked him along with Hurricane Shane Helms for some of the Resurrected Omega shows. So I'd known him for a long time. And I almost feel like a proud papa when these guys end up making it and they become huge stars. And I'm so proud of how well Adam has done.
Is it one of those where do you say anything to him before that match he had when he won the belt from Kenny? Do you say anything to him, or you just let him handle it himself and have his moment?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably, I say something afterwards. I make sure to congratulate him, tell him I'm proud of him. And I'm just so happy. And it's just so amazing to see someone who starts at the very beginning with this dream, this aspiration, and they don't know if they're going to make it. They're kind of taking a huge chance in life as far as not having a regular or regulation career or whatever. They're trying to be a pro wrestler, and it's a wild chase. And to see them achieve it and have the utmost success, which he has, obviously, as the AEW World Champion, it's truly something that makes me proud of those guys. And I feel like an investment in the talent that I helped when they were starting their careers, right at the very infantile stages of their careers. So with Adam, he is one of those guys. So very proud of him. Couldn't be more proud of him.
Did you see it in him at the beginning, or do you feel like it took time for him to get into that groove and find himself?
Yeah, I immediately saw a very special talent within him. And it took him a while to find his groove, but once he got into his groove, he's killing it. And on top of that, he's also he has so much courage, and he's so brave to try things that a lot of people wouldn't do because they would think it makes them look weak. Like, for instance, his whole deal about second guessing himself, being anxious, being like, oh my God, I can never be good enough to be the champion, through this whole thing with Kenny Omega. There's a lot of people who'd say like, well, I don't want to act like that. I don't want to be anxious, or I don't want to second guess myself because that might make my character look weak. But I think in this day and age, so many people are open about their feelings and mental health. There's so many people that can relate to him. And I'm sure for him to commit to that personality and then get through and come out and be successful, it's inspiring to a lot of people who might be dealing with those same issues in their lives.
And with this, we keep hearing about this forbidden door. We keep hearing a lot about all these types of people going anywhere. Are we going to see you at the Royal Rumble?
I don't know. But one thing that I would say, and this is kind of my view of wrestling, just never say never about anything. Anything can happen in the insane industry of professional wrestling.
You are not. I had to ask because I asked Janela, and everyone's talking about Cody, and they were chanting the Royal Rumble at Cody last night. What was that about?
Yeah.
That was definitely something. A Royal Rumble chant on AEW Dynamite. I didn't think we'd see that one.
That was something.
But Matt, this is our first time we've chatted, and this has definitely been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time today. It means a lot. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and you know what? I'm looking forward to 2022, especially in March.
Yeah, especially in March.
March is going to be a big month.
It's your birthday. It's going to be a big month. And Big Money Matt, he's going to spend a boatload on your birthday present. So I'm excited for March as well.
You know what? I can use a new car. Okay. I like Hondas. I'm a Honda Pilot guy. I got a 2012. Okay. My wife's got a 21. I can use a new 2022 Pilot. I can't make it on a journalist's salary is not as much as Big Money Matt in AEW.
Well, I was thinking about pushing a Corvette your way, but I'll look at the Honda.
Hey, I'll take any kind of vet, sir. Thanks, Matt, and talk soon.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.